now available in paperback. From the author of the critically acclaimed book The Man Crisis comes The Woman Crisis. Learn why so many women have become lost in their quest to have it all in The Woman Crisis. Get your copy of The Woman Crisis in paperback at Amazon.com and online booksellers today. A white female mayor in a Louisiana town has been arrested for participating in the statutory grape of a minor.
Well, a major development involving DeRidder's former mayor, Misty Roberts Clanton. She's been arrested for rape allegedly involving a juvenile. The state police special victims unit interviewed 2 juveniles, including the alleged victim. Both confirmed that Clanton had sex with one juvenile while employed as mayor. 42-year-old Clanton is charged with 1 count of third-degree rape and contributing to the delinquency of juveniles. Her bond has been set at $75,000. Clanton resigned as mayor just 5 days ago. Her arrest follows a tumultuous week in DeRidder. Clanton said she'd be away from the office for 2 weeks, appointing DeRidder Fire Chief Ken Harlow as interim mayor on Friday. She then resigned on Saturday.
Now, in this extremely disturbing incident that took place in the town of DeRidder, Louisiana, the mayor of DeRidder, Misty Clanton Roberts, abruptly resigned from her position as mayor of the town and gave the position to the interim mayor, who was the fire chief. Now, some people were wondering why Misty Clanton Roberts abruptly resigned from her position as mayor. However, people began to understand why Misty Clanton Roberts quickly resigned from her position as an investigation went on as related to a sex scandal where she allegedly participated in a sexual encounter with a minor. Now, after this investigation was done and a warrant for Misty Clanton Roberts' arrest was made, Misty Clanton Roberts basically was arrested and charged with statutory grape as related to the inappropriate sexual relations she had with that minor, and was also charged with encouraging the delinquency of a minor. Now, after being arrested and charged for these crimes, Misty Clanton Roberts was taken into custody, and she went from becoming the mayor, who was supposed to be the executive branch that basically enforced the laws of the town of DeRidder, to winding up becoming an inmate inside of the county jail. Now, the police in Louisiana see Misty Clanton Roberts' behavior as an isolated incident, but when I take a critical examination of the alleged behavior of Misty Clanton Roberts, it definitely fits the pattern and profile of the sexually deviant behavior that some feminist indoctrinated women participate in, that I talk about in depth as related to the motivations for that behavior in my book, The Woman Crisis. And Misty Clanton Roberts definitely looks like one of these women in crisis who basically started on a road to sexual deviancy based on all of the media we have seen that promotes sexual promiscuity to women that came out of the sexual revolution of the 1960s and the rise of the feminist movement. Now, this whole propaganda that had been promoted to women, telling them that sex is a form of empowerment, was promoted during the 1960s. Moreover, a lot of media was promoted to older women, telling them that having a sexual relationship with an underage boy was something that was appropriate. This was something that was promoted in many teen movies in the 1970s, such as Summer of 42, and many other 1980s teen movies like My Tutor and many others. And as we went into the 90s, we had films like American Pie and adult films promoting this whole trope of an older woman having a sexual relationship with a teenage boy. And this was promoted to be something that was socially normal and acceptable to a lot of generations of women, starting with the baby boomer movement. And as many liberated and empowered women took on these messages, they thought that having these types of inappropriate relationships were socially normal. Moreover, when it came down to many young boys, this was promoted to them as part of their rite of passage to become a man in mainstream media, because in mainstream media, they oftentimes promoted the idea of a woman having a sexual relationship with a teenage boy as a way for that boy to graduate into manhood and a way to gain social currency with other men, because by having sex with that older woman, this would make it look like he was some sort of stud. But the whole foundations of this whole sexual relationship are not something that are socially acceptable. No, this type of sexual relationship is actually sexual deviancy, and the reasons for this type of sexual relationship are not about having any sort of sexual pleasure whatsoever. No, the foundations of this type of sexual deviancy are all about a woman looking to gain power over a young boy who really doesn't understand the behaviors he's participating in, doesn't understand the behaviors he's participating in, because he knows really nothing about sex outside of what Madison Avenue and Hollywood have told him regarding sexual relationships, because Madison Avenue and Hollywood and even the porn industry, again, for over 60 years have promoted the idea of teenage boys having sex with older women and promoted it as something as a trophy or a symbol of them graduating into manhood, and promoted the idea of this being a positive thing, because if an older woman chooses you to have sex with, they promote the idea that this is something good for a boy to have. But in actuality, what's happening is that this boy is actually being exploited and basically being sexually abused, because again, this teenage boy does not have the emotional understanding to be able to understand the behaviors he's participating in. Yes, he was taught about the physical activities in a sex education class, but he does not understand the emotional or spiritual aspects of sex, and doesn't understand that the decision that he's making is one that will be detrimental to him, because what he's doing is getting involved with a woman that he is not emotionally ready to be involved with. And again, when it comes to the woman who does this, this woman knows that this boy is a child, basically doesn't understand what he's doing, and when she gets involved with this boy like this to have a sexual relationship, basically what she's looking to do is gain power and control over that boy, as she basically abuses this boy as related to his emotions, and basically abuses this boy because she knows, as an older person, this boy is not mentally or emotionally ready to handle the emotions as related to this sexual encounter, and is not really capable of understanding what he is doing. Yes, he knows what to do physically with his body, but he doesn't understand what to do as related to how he feels related to that woman. And this woman, again, is an older person who knows better, and when she goes out here and looks to engage this boy, what she's doing is, again, enabling the delinquency of this minor to participate in an act that he is not legally able to consent to and not legally able to participate in. And that's where this mayor is participated in some extremely egregious behavior, in my opinion, because this mayor was, again, knew the law and was elected to enforce the laws, and with her knowing what the law was as related to sexual encounters and her participating in this encounter with a minor, it basically shows that this woman egregiously violated the law, because what she wanted to do was get this power over this boy and wanted to gratify her feelings as related to having power over this boy. That's basically what this woman wanted to do in this situation, and that's basically what makes this an extremely egregious act. Here we have a person who basically took an oath to serve the county that she was living in as the mayor, was the head of that town of DeRidder, Louisiana. Again, here's a woman, again, given this position by the people of that town, and she not only violated the public trust, she basically violated this boy as related to his intangibles of manhood, such as his dignity, his self-respect, and his self-worth. And she basically wound up destroying this boy's ability to have a healthy relationship with women with this inappropriate conduct. I mean, this inappropriate conduct basically showed us all this woman did not look to follow the law. And as this scandal started to break out, what she looked to do was try to distance the office of the mayor from her egregious actions by resigning, because she knew what was coming, and in an effort to try to avoid an ignominious end. What happened with this woman was she resigned her position to try to save some face, but there was no saving face as related to her criminal behavior that basically violated this boy's character and basically violated the public trust. This woman basically went way too far as related to her behavior, and this kind of behavior is the kind of behavior I had talked about in my book, The Woman Crisis, in several chapters, such as the sexual revolution as related to feminist indoctrinated women, which I talked about in one chapter, and I also talked about it in depth in a chapter talking about the sexually deviant behavior of these feminist indoctrinated women, and I also talked about it in another chapter called Crime and the Woman Crisis, because as feminist indoctrinated women come into our society, into positions of power, what they want to believe is that they can do the same things that men do. Unfortunately, their whole picture of men is completely distorted from a rose-colored reality where all they see are the worst men in society, and because all they see are the worst men in society, what these feminist indoctrinated women believe is that they have a right to go out here and participate in all of these egregious behaviors that men who are not moral participate in, and they believe that this is their way of making things equal. But this is not making things equal, because this woman's picture of manhood is completely distorted, because men of character do not get involved with underage minors. No, a man of character will correct an underage minor who looks to make an inappropriate advance on them. That's what a man of character will do. And a woman of character, when a teenage boy approaches her and wants to say that she is attractive and wants to have a relationship with her, what that woman will do, because she understands that she is an adult and she has been placed in a position of leadership and authority, is she will let that boy know that it is inappropriate for her to be involved with her, and let that boy know that she only deals with men, and basically go out here and do things to let this boy know that, yes, I understand you have feelings based on a crush, based on hormones, but you are not somebody that I would consider for a relationship. That is what an adult does as related to these type of situations. They gently and politely go out here and let this person know where the boundaries are. They let them know where the boundaries are as related to behavior, and let those children understand where what are appropriate and inappropriate behaviors for people to participate in. That is what an adult does. But sadly, what we have with a lot of feminist indoctrinated women is these women basically don't really understand what boundaries are, sometimes due to the dysfunctional way that they're raised, and sometimes because of the media that they have been watching over the decades, because we've had over about 60 years of these kinds of teen movies. I mean, I saw one going way back as 1968 that starred Jacqueline Bisset, and seen this whole trope go on as related to underage minors and having sexual relationships with older women. And while the media of the West tries to, again, romanticize this idea, what they're romanticizing is basically sexual abuse. And what's sad is that the mainstream media, if this were an older man pursuing a teenage girl, this would be considered to be extremely inappropriate. But when a woman does this with a teenage boy, it is equally inappropriate, because this is sexual abuse, and any woman who participates in this kind of relationship is participating in sexual abuse, and this is sexual deviancy, because what you're doing is encouraging a minor to participate in behaviors that they are not emotionally or mentally ready for. Yes, the teenage boy is eager because of his hormones, but he's not in a place where he understands what he's doing, and that's why an adult has to check that boy and let that boy know that only she deals with men. And again, that's what a healthy woman does. But when a woman has been programmed to believe sexually deviancy is normal, she'll sit there and, again, engage this teenage boy and see him as a viable partner. And that's what's totally, completely disturbing. We have this culture in America that goes on with these relationships. And what's happening now is we're seeing more and more women participating in this behavior, because I've read about multiple reports of women participating in this behavior. And I remember 5 years before, I said that in a video we were going to see more of this disturbing trend. But what happens with the mainstream media is that they've been burying these stories because they don't want you to see white women as the face of sexual predation. And because they don't want you to see white women as the face of sexual predation, they have been trying to bury these stories. However, these stories have been increasing in frequency, and that is really troubling. It's really troubling because you have all of these women, like this 42-year-old woman, again, 42 years old, and should know better about teenage boys, to set a boundary between herself and them, because this child is old enough to be her son. But this woman, again, basically is out here participating in this deviancy, and thinking it's okay because of the way we've promoted it in media for the last 60 years. And this is the thing that people aren't understanding about this disturbing trend. They're thinking that this is just something that is sensationalized in the media. But no, this has been going on for several years. I've been seeing more and more white women getting arrested for participating in these statutory grapes, because many mothers don't want to see their sons corrupted as related to their sexuality, and many mothers don't want to see their sons participating in inappropriate behavior. They don't see anything positive out of it. No, they see it as the sexual abuse that it actually is, because they don't want their minor sons out here participating in this behavior. And that's why we're seeing this increase in frequency of these women being arrested, because many of those mothers don't want to see their sons out here with these older women who are basically preying on them, because these are female predators preying on a teenage boy who doesn't know anything, and taking advantage of him because they want to have all the power as related to a sexual relationship and have control over that boy, because they don't feel comfortable about submitting to a man in a healthy relationship. That's the reason why they go out here and do this. And again, it is disturbing to see a woman who was the mayor of this town, participating in this behavior, showing how her emotions basically made it where she wasn't thinking logically about the law. No, she was all about sating her feelings because she was white and she said so, and she thought that because she was white and she said so, she could do whatever she wanted, until she basically realized that there were too many people to go against her as related to her violating the law. And that's when she tried to again save the face of the office that she compromised. And as she looked to save the face of the office that she compromised, this is where she resigned her position. But resigning this position basically showed how this woman was on the road to being a woman in crisis, and a woman in crisis because this feminist indoctrinated woman did not know how to be a woman of God and be a part of God's order. No, this feminist basically wanted to get the power of a man, but didn't understand the consequences of being in a man. Because men, when we have power, we understand we have a responsibility to the people around us, and especially those who are the most vulnerable, who are children. We understand we have a responsibility to those children to do right by those children, and do right by those children and show them an example of positive manhood and womanhood. Yes, it may hurt a teenage boy's feelings to get rejected, but a woman of character, she understands that she needs to present a strong moral position and let this boy know that a woman's it needs to be respected, and a boy coming to her is again out of line, and let him know where the boundary is as related to male-female relationships between adults and children, because again, this is a child, and this is a child, and any woman who goes after a child again is just as much a sexual predator as a man who does this, and it's just as much a sexual deviant as one that goes after children, because again, a relationship between a teenage boy and a woman again is all about sexual deviancy, and that type of person again needs to basically, if they do these crimes, need to be again put in jail with Betty, Big Lou, Martha, and Mrs. Sprinkles, and basically be in there with the woman playing spades, because this again is not something that should be trivialized or taken as a joke. It needs to be taken seriously, because women who prey on boys like this make boys into men in crisis, and that's why you have to take it seriously when you have a woman going out here preying on boys like this. You have to take it seriously, because this is just as much sexual abuse to a boy as it would be if a man participated in the same kind of behavior. Now, if you want to learn more about why this behavior is continuing to escalate and why this kind of behavior is depraved, and what motivates women to participate in this type of depraved behavior, you can pick up my book, The Woman Crisis, on Amazon.com. And in that book, I go in depth on why you're seeing an increase in frequency of these kinds of sex crimes, where women look to sexually abuse teenage boys. And I go in depth on this so that you can understand why this behavior is inappropriate and is a danger to a boy, because the mainstream media has romanticized this type of behavior and not really talked about it as the sexual abuse that it actually is. And you can pick up that book, The Woman Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find it at other online booksellers like Draft to Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. Now, this was a video requested by one of my viewers, and if you want to request a video, you can send a donation for a minimum of $15 to the Cash App or the PayPal with the subject, and if I can do research on that subject, or I know something about that subject, I will make that video for you. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.